Good day to you, and you are listening to Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. And this is the WestFair Business Spotlight Series, Episode 1, produced by Sharc Creative. Together, WestFair Communications and Sharc Creative are combining to give you a voice. I'm John Marino, and thank you for joining us. We are joined by John Tolomer today. John Tolliver, as we talk banking today, is the president and CEO of the Westchester Bank, headquartered in White Plains, with 7 branches around the county. Those branches are in White Plains, in Yonkers, and Mamaroneck. Also 2 in Rybrook, in Ossining, in Thornwood, and in Mount Kisco. Spread all the way around the county, top to bottom, east to west, north and south. John Tolomer, first of all, thank you for joining us here on Westchester Talk Radio. How are you?
Great. Thank you, John. Nice to be with you.
You're a busy
I want to
guy.
mention we also have a branch in Ossining.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that also,
Good.
too.
Okay.
Along the way. Thank you. 7. Try to memorize them, but I said, you know what? Why don't we just look at the list here, take a look, and
Fair enough.
work them all in. We'll do it again. White Plains, Yonkers, Mamaroneck, Rybrook, Ossining, Thornwood, and Mount Kisco. John Tolliver, we live in some uncertain times right now. A pandemic. Now we have social unrest in our area, the tri-state area, around the country. What can you, as the man who runs the Westchester Bank, the president and CEO, say to people around Westchester, people in this tri-state area, our consumers, those who use the Westchester Bank and others, people who are really part of the system, and anybody around this area? How can you provide a calming voice and attitude toward us right now? What should we know?
Well, it's certainly unprecedented times, as we've all been hearing and saying. I'll start with pandemic and then get to the racism issue. The pandemic has really taken the Westchester Bank banking made personal to another level. And in fact, we've had the opportunity to call each and every one of our customers to see how we could be in a position to help them ride through the uncertainty, the economic uncertainty. And so being able to be a community bank and call your customers was very powerful. The feedback from our customers was how important it was to know that we were calling to see how we could assist them as opposed to badger them for payments or the like. The feedback also was that customers really appreciated the fact that we took the time to call them as human beings and also to give them other solutions on how they could bank with us and not sacrifice all of what they need. So they were able to access the bank through our mobile apps, through our online banking, our ATMs, etc. And so they've been able to continue to bank with us, and they will continue to be able to bank with us. We've remained open throughout the process. And again, we are practicing social distancing, but we are leveraging that and speaking to all of our customers to find out how we can assist them.
Now,
sorry.
When you do this, for example, and the mode that you've taken right now to help customers out, how does it affect the bank and the bank's bottom line? Because you're obviously allowing people to back up their payments, what they are responsible for, giving back to the bank helping them out to begin with, and yet that's got to affect your bottom line.
Well, it does have an impact, but in the long run, it will also have an impact, and I believe will be far greater positive impact than negative impact. And frankly, this was a more complicated issue in that the regulatory authorities were permitting the banks to work closely with their customers to try and assist them. And so from that perspective, we're doing that. We're doing, the guidance was very clear to help our customers. We've been able to do that. And in the long run, our relationships with our customers will far exceed any short-term hit. Frankly, we have not really taken any financial impact, negative impact during March or April, and certainly May. The month end was yesterday, so it's a little early to tell, but I suspect we'll be in very good shape. So
now we have also to the pandemic, and then we move over to, as you pointed out, the racial issue as well, mixed into all of this, and the civil unrest we see happening. And If I were in your position, I'd be worried by what I see, because to me, I look at it and I say they're trying to break down our institutions, and one of those institutions is our banking system. Yet somebody who does this day by day for decades like you know you can't just run out of your seat and run to the window and say, I got to do something about that. You have to have to be the calming influence and kind of settle everybody and everything down, I guess, and let us know that, you know what? Whatever happens today, happens today. There's always tomorrow.
Well, we all saw the George Floyd's death. And the bottom line to it is this is one in far too many incidents that have occurred over recent memory and for a long period of time. And I think, as a matter of fact, I sent a note to the staff today that we're against racism in any shape or form. And what I want to be able to do personally as well as professionally and with our bank to fight racism. This is uncalled for. It's unacceptable. There should be a fairness to every of life, and will support people who are engaged in dialogue and constructive to improve the situation. But this is intolerable. Racism is intolerable at any level, and we're vehemently opposed to it, and we'll do what we can to eradicate that. And as we look around for organizations that are going to fight racism, we're going to look to support them to the best of our ability, and both in many ways, whether that's financial, whether it's our employees helping them. But this is a scourge on our society, and a society is only as strong as its weakest link. And this is just beyond disgraceful, disgusting. And I don't have enough adjectives to really describe my feelings about it. But it's got to be fought, and it's got to be fought now.
Now, the bank has a slogan, banking made personal. This has been the slogan since day one. When you work with minority communities, for example, knowing that sometimes there is an income disparity, yet the bank has to be able to work with every community. When you do that with communities that might be a bit disadvantaged, or with any community, you're making banking personal all the time, I would think, adjusting that banking made personal to that person, to that business, to that situation. Being made personal may be different for me than it may be for somebody else or for you.
Well, we look from an underwriting standpoint of loans. What we always try to do, we always look not to say no, we look to say yes. And then we look to analyze under what circumstances and what terms and conditions the bank would be comfortable with, and we offer alternatives. And that doesn't mean we make every loan, because we don't, but we certainly give everybody an opportunity to access capital, and on the basis of what we can do to protect our shareholders, our bank, and to assist people. So we've been very involved in the community. We've been very philanthropic, and probably more philanthropic than a bank our size, since our founding in June of 2008. So we're coming up on our 12th birthday. We've always been philanthropic, and we've been philanthropic in terms of certainly writing checks and donating, but attending events, providing premiums for golf outings and for different fundraising activities, walks that a lot of the not-for-profits here in Westchester were involved in. Now, we've taken, since the pandemic, a little slight, while we continue to do that, those type of activities, we have also looked and found a few GoFundMe pages that were really helping local restaurants, funding local restaurants to prepare and deliver meals for our frontline warriors. And we certainly, those frontline workers are real heroes. And playing a small part in that is very, very important. As a matter of fact, later this week, the bank will be in New Rochelle and providing some Dunkin' Donuts for 400 nurses. And we're real excited about that. And in just a small way of giving back and saying thank you in our way.
John Tolomer, President and CEO of the Westchester Bank, with us here on Westchester Talk Radio. And as you work together, work with different communities, you talk about going into New Rochelle this week to help workers there for all they've done. How has the Westchester Bank worked with small and medium-sized businesses to get through this pandemic and set them up for not only the months ahead, but maybe the years ahead right now, too? And
Sure.
oh, by the way, congratulations on the 12th anniversary of the Westchester Bank, too.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. How we've been able to work with people during the pandemic in particular, regulators had really encouraged banks, all banks, to work with their customers. And as I mentioned earlier, we really picked up the phone and called every one of our customers to find out how they were doing, how their employees were doing, and how we could assist them. And that went on for a period of time. And then, as you know, the loan program called PPP loan program came about. And we facilitated enough loans to save or fund over 7,000 jobs here in our market. And we really take great pride in being able to facilitate those loans to keep people being paid and to help small, medium-sized businesses in our market. And it's been very fruitful and it's been very thankful. And I would tell you that many of our clients were calling and saying, thank you so much. I really needed this. This was the lifeline I needed, and it's helped their employees. And so it's very gratifying to assist small, medium-sized businesses prosper and, or in this particular circumstance, hang on until things get better, until we normalize.
Now, that's the Banking Made Personal approach. Your personal philosophy, I can tell, obviously is a big part of what the bank does. That bank approach and your personal approach, the business approach from the bank and your personal approach seem to be linked together, makes it easier for both ends to be able to come together and make a kind of meet in the middle and help set somebody up for the months and years to come.
Yes, that's true, John. We have always taken the tact. We have all of the state-of-the-art technology. However, all of the banks have that. The key element is who leverages that for the benefit of our client relationships.
Who makes a difference?
That's
what
right.
It comes down to.
And we always talk about the fact that the employees we recruit are people that want to be involved with customers, that are service-oriented, and want to deliver on a value proposition that a community bank can offer. And so how many banks can say that they've called every single customer to find out how we could help them?
You call every single customer to find out how, if John Marino were a client of the Westchester Bank, I'd get a call from someone from the bank, and you take that time to ask, hey, John, how are things? What do you need? What can we do for you?
Yes.
That's Banking Made Personal. Who else does that?
Right. And that's what it's all about. And that's what makes us the who we are and what we are. And our employees buy into that culture, and our customers are a great source of our marketing because they tell other friends, hey, this is the bank where you want to work. You want to work with this bank because they're personal. And so sometimes in just having the dialogue with our customers, we're able to formulate programs that work for them, whether it's cash management, whether it's deposits or time, place, convenience, or it's commercial loans. We're there for them to understand. We ask them about their business so we can understand, and we can formulate a program that will work for them and work for the bank.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever sat back and said to yourself, you know, this is a real teaching moment for me, what's gone on the last 3 months with the pandemic and with the social unrest right now?
Absolutely. One of the things that one has to reflect on when you're responsible for an organization, we're a small business from the standpoint of 72 employees. We leverage technology. My responsibility is to keep our staff members and our customers healthy and to devise programs. So we, as a bank, never close, not one day, not 1 minute. We continue to operate, and we're operating at full strength. But we're operating a little differently. People are not in the headquarters. They're working remotely, but we continue to be 100% operative in operation. So The point of it is we have that capability, and so we can leverage that technology to work remotely, but continue to talk to our customers and provide them with banking made personal, because that's what community banking is all about.
How about a success story or two where the Westchester Bank made a difference for a person, for a business, for some kind of entity where without John Tolomer, without the Westchester Bank, well, sink or swim, they probably might have sunk, and now they swim and swim pretty well.
I think there's many, and I think I can just generically speak about, by understanding more about a customer and their ability and what they have. And sometimes the answer is, gee, what you're asking for, we can't do. But because we understand your business, we understand your challenge, we can formulate a program that will work for you and will work for us. And that's really been the essence of community banking. It's really getting to understand the customer and how we can provide them with what they need and still protect the bank. So it happens frequently. There are many phone calls saying, I don't know how I would have gotten on without this loan. This is certainly true in the PPP program. It was true before that, with whether it was some short-term deferrals or providing additional capital to businesses that are deemed to be essential and are continuing to operate. So it's across the board, and it's really very gratifying, not only for myself, but for our team, to know that we're making a difference with our customers and we're helping them.
Mm-hmm. And now you bring up a key point about how it's not cookie cutter, where most people think banks are, you walk in, I need this, we can give it to you, do whatever we want for you. And you find out once you sign on the dotted line, that's not really the case. It sounds like with the Westchester Bank, if John Marino walks in, I might need this, I might need that, I do need this. You'll say to me, John, we can do A, we can do B, we can't do C, and that's best for both of us. And I think that's a real key to personalized banking.
Well, I think it builds for long-term mutually beneficial relationships. So when we may not be able to do exactly what the customer requests, but we're able to explain, here's where we're having difficulty approving what you're asking for. We then collectively with the customer talk about how we can compromise and make a proposition or a loan program that works for them and for us. What happens is both the customer and the bank are vested in that relationship, in the trust and in the integrity of working with each other. And that makes for the underpinning of long-term mutually beneficial relationships. And frankly, that's what we attempt to do. We're not interested in just doing a loan and see you goodbye. We want to work with our customers. We want to grow with our customers. 12 years ago when we started, our lending limit was very limited. It was $1.6 million, and now it's over $20 million. So we have the capability to do more and more for our customers. But many of those customers that worked with us in 2008 and 2009, and if you remember, that was a very, very difficult circumstance because it was the meltdown. And so we were able to, it was the whole residential mortgage meltdown. And so we started in June of 2008. And I came along in November of 2008. And so we worked through a very, very trying, probably before the pandemic, the second worst economic circumstance since the Great Depression.
You've had experience at this before a decade ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
tell me,
sure.
From day one, 2008, 2009, you begin during, as you termed it, what it was, a meltdown back then. How was the Westchester Bank able to kick off and get going at that time when everybody else was doing something totally different because they had no other choice?
Well, it's interesting, John, because there was one little bit of it didn't feel like it at the time, but we had one advantage. We didn't have very many loans. So we were not internally focused on our existing portfolio. We were externally focused. And so we had the ability to talk to small, medium-sized businesses with a clean record and the ability to work closely with those companies, those individuals. And so that was an important element. Now, we also, because of technology, could offer all the products and services right, that the largest financial institutions in the world offer.
All the bells and whistles.
Correct. So now think about this. Here we are in June. Let's just say November of '08. Okay, so the meltdown has kind of taken place. All of our competitors were kind of internally focused about what they were going to do with their loans. We were able to be externally focused to bring customers in. Now, while we were in 2 double-wide trailers on Central Avenue, we had the ability, because of technology, that people could scan their deposits to the bank. They could use online banking. They could have free online bill pay. And so they had all of those products and services to be able to access their banking. So it was an educational factor. So somebody who was, say, a business in White Plains, because we were at that point in Yonkers, or in say, Mayapack, how do I bank with you? Well, you're going to scan your deposits to the bank. Your ACH will come directly to our bank. We had a full product, full suite of product. So it was a matter of educating our customers and being able to look past, you only have one single location. How do I bank with you? And that started the bank, and that built strong relationships. And I'm proud to say that those customers are still with us. And they're with us because our people, our team members, our staff members are talking to them on an ongoing basis, not just pandemic related, but before that, to continue to ask our customers, how can we be of assistance to you? And that's a key differentiator.
What percentage of current customers today, midway through 2020, have been with the bank since day one back in '08?
Yeah, I don't have a specific percentage. That wouldn't be so.
Approximation?
But I can tell you, it's a very high percentage. I would say it a little differently. The people that started with us in '08, '09, and '10 are still with us.
And that's what you want.
Key.
That's how you grow. Right. Yeah, that's the way to do it. You are listening to Westchester Talk Radio, WestchesterTalkRadio.com, and this is the Westchester Business Spotlight Series, the WestFair Business Spotlight Series here in Westchester on Westchester Talk Radio, Episode 1, produced by Sharc Creative. Together, WestFair Communications and Sharc Creative are combining to give you a voice. We are joined by John Tolomer, President and CEO of the Westchester Bank, with 7 locations around the county in White Plains and Yonkers, and Mamaroneck, Rybrook, Ossining, also in Thornwood, and in Mount Kisco. Now, John Tolomer, I know you're a busy guy. We could stay here all day and talk about this. The accolades you've received personally, the accolades the Westchester Bank has received over the course of the last 12 years. Tell us what has made you and what has made the bank most proud. If you had to select an award or two, a theme, a moment or two, what really sticks out and stands out to you as, you know what, great, we did it?
Best bank to work for. 3 consecutive years in New York State in the top tier of that. There's 75 that win it, but we were, I think, I forget the exact number. I think the last time it was 7 or 8, and we're really excited about that. And I'll tell you why we're excited about it. The way that gets measured is employees are surveyed anonymously. Now, the reason we started doing this was really not to win an award, but to gather information to understand what is it that our employees feel they need, want, what works, what doesn't work. And for 3 consecutive years, we've placed in the award-winning, in the top tier. But it's been instructive. And one reason was, I'll give you an example. The first year we did it, it came to light that we had employees that wanted tuition reimbursement. And so we implemented, as a result of that feedback, we implemented a tuition reimbursement program for our employees. So it's great to win an award, and I won't give it back, but unfortunately this year we're not going to participate because it's in the middle of the pandemic, and I think that's just not the time to be asking people how you feel about your work. The good news from our perspective is no one's been laid off. No one will be laid off. We're continuing to operate at 100% efficiency. So that award, when your employees tell you this is a great place to work, that has to hit home. And we continue to look for ways to make it a great place to work, and so that they bring their friends and real professionals as new employees that will buy into our culture.
How can you get through this pandemic without any kind of cutbacks or layoffs like you just mentioned? That seems impossible, and yet you've been able to get that done.
We will not be laying anybody off. We won't even think
No
about it.
furloughs?
No furloughs, not a day, not at all.
No, we need your assistance, your help. I got to cut you 15%, and I'll give it back to you
There
down the
won't be
road.
any cuts. Everybody is working today. They're working at the salary they had back in February before this pandemic.
And they can work from home too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, what a deal.
Yeah, not bad, right?
You can't beat that. Yeah.
Well,
Now,
we're very fortunate.
All these
we're
accolades
fortunate.
that you have and that the bank has gotten in the last 12 years or so, how does this hook into and connect with your personal and the bank's banking made personal philosophy, the way you do business?
Well, I know I look like I'm 28, but I've been at this a while. And one of the things I was able to do, I worked for larger institutions, and I learned what works and I learned what doesn't work. And so what I brought to bear with the bank 12 years ago when I joined was, let's emphasize the things that work and let's eliminate the things that don't work. And the number one thing that I've learned over the years is customers do not know how to interpret silence. So we need to talk to them, right? What happens? When does a customer call the bank? Generally, when they need something. If we don't respond, what does one think? Oh, they're not interested. They don't want to help me. Even if we don't have an answer, we need to pick up a phone and call the customer and say, I'm still researching your question. I will be back to you. It's key. It's so important to be able to communicate with our customers, right? Think about your everyday life. No matter where you go, would you prefer a personalized experience or not? Now, some people just want to be on computers and phones and they don't really want to deal with anybody. But I think that's a smaller percentage. Even now with young people coming along, people still want to have guidance. They want to have relationships. They want to talk to people. And that's what we offer. And so we offer solutions because in the end, when you have a relationship, you can continue to talk and find out how can we work effectively together? How can we build a mutually beneficial relationship? And that's what Banking Made Personal is about. And it's the way I've looked at things over the years. And fortunately, our customers have been very, very receptive. They've been terrifically loyal to our bank, and we've been terrifically loyal to them. And so it's a yin and a yang. We're there for each other. And so in times like this, we can continue to have our employees work and earn their salaries and not worry about their job security and just be able to focus on the job at hand.
John Tolomer, President and CEO of the Westchester Bank, 7 locations across the county of Westchester. Now, you've brought up already, you've touched upon this, best bank to work for in New York State and in the nation, a best bank to work for in the state and in the nation. Also, top community bank lender in the nation, too. Let's go back with that. Top community bank lender in the nation. You're in that group there. And if that doesn't say what you need to know about the Westchester Bank, along with those other accolades, I don't know what does.
Well, I think the key thing is to understand that the bank doesn't make any money if we have an approval, but we don't close a loan. We only begin to make money when we close a loan. So if we've been very careful in our underwriting process and we feel very comfortable with the loan we're about to make, we try to get those loans closed as quickly as possible. And we say internally all the time, today is better than tomorrow. Tomorrow is better than the next day. So we want to be able to find the right people with the right level of risk and be able to make those loans and to be able to close them as quickly as possible and to build not just one time a loan, but continue to build a relationship. And that's why we have a full suite of product both for consumers as well as for businesses and not-for-profits. And that's another area a lot of companies don't really know how to, banks don't really know how to deal with not-for-profits. And they're different than small business, but there are some similarities, but they're not the same. And so we constructed a not-for-profit model where the not-for-profit can leverage its bank relationship. They don't pay hard dollar fees to maintain their accounts. We work closely with them. In many cases, we've been able to be philanthropic, and we've supported their initiatives. So it's always it's always an ability to try to work together, find common ground, build a long-term mutually beneficial relationship.
A Bauer Financial 5-star rating, 30 consecutive quarters. Now that's close to a decade, almost as long as the Westchester Bank has been around. You've been doing this, like we've said, from day one. How do you do that, and how do you pull off something like that?
Well, that really speaks to the financial stability of our bank. And being at that level of Bauer 5-star is really important. There's no higher distinction. We do that through profitability, and we've done it through the fact that we've been able to grow with our customers here, and we've been able to retain our earnings and continue to build our business. And so it's a high-performing bank is not just the financial results. It's also how you attack your day-to-day activities and responsibilities, and whether that's in the accounting area or whether it's in the back office and deposit operations. We have to continue to be there to work together for the benefit of our customers. And when we do that, we continue to increase our business, which increases our profitability, which makes us a much stronger bank. And that's how we've been able to do it.
I've seen a couple of your recent TV ads, and starring John Tolliver, of course, for the Westchester Bank. The impression I get from them, the message I get is, stay safe. We can always do business.
Yes, we're in this together, and we're going to be able to we're doing business now. We're doing it a little differently, but we'll continue to be there for our customers. We never closed during the pandemic. We're not going to close. We're going to continue. Banking is considered an essential service. We never closed, and we won't close. We're going to continue to be there for our customers. We're going to continue to find ways to assist them, and long-term, grow together and continue to be prosperous.
Mm-hmm. Now we are into a partial reopening, step by step, in Westchester, around the tri-state area, and across New York State. Can we reopen quickly, do you think, or do we need to do this step by step?
I looked at this morning's paper, and there's 104,000 people that have passed from coronavirus. And I think as much as we all have a desire to get back to work and, quote, get things back to normal, I think we have to take a very measured approach to that. And we're going to continue to operate the way we are. Our customers they don't care if I'm sitting at my home or I'm in my office, as long as we continue to serve them. And that's been the case with our bank. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to be smart. And when you look across the board, I think people, we're going to see more and more masks, and we're going to see more social distancing. And I think it's appropriate. I think you can't fool with this. This is, there's 104,000 people have died from this since March 1st. So that's incredibly high numbers, and it's a terrible thing. So I think we have to take a measured approach, and we will eventually, hopefully we'll have a vaccine, but through social distancing, in-house, in-home, I think will help and will continue to get us back to a more normal life over time.
Is there a fear factor with the markets, in your opinion, where, to me, markets react too much to what's going on? If I were sitting at a desk on Wall Street, maybe this is overreaching a bit, I'd say, gee, what can I do to try to set the pace to make the flow instead of going with the flow, and try to take something in a positive direction? Markets get news that they don't think is good. They move in a different direction. The fear factor, how much does that play into this as we try to get back to normal and try to reopen? Like you say, some want us to do this all in one day, and it looks like we can't, yet the markets still have to help us do this.
Sure. Well, I think you have to separate the stock market from the economy. The stock market, to me, is more about liquidity, investments, 401ks, all of that money. And yes, they react day to day. You can see when Moderna thought that they had a vaccine and it was very encouraging, the market rocketed. I think the market is beginning to look at the stock market, that is beginning to look at there will be a return. It might be a little slower and more thoughtful than originally contemplated. And so you're beginning to see different segments, like now the banking segment is beginning to come back, in different segments will come back in the stock market. In terms of the economy, I think the economy, again, gets to how can we go get a haircut? Can we go to a restaurant? And if we can, under what circumstances are we comfortable to do that? So that's going to take a little bit more time. I know that some of the major CEOs of major banks have indicated they see a third quarter return to improvement, and I think that's a safer bet than not. But I think it's going to be a slow go. We still have 30 million Americans out of work. Mm-hmm. And so some will go back, and hopefully more and more will go back sooner rather than later. But that's a more complicated issue.
John Tolomer, President CEO of Westchester Bank. John, what advice can you give up-and-comers in the banking business? How can they get to be the next John Tolomer, or at least a reasonable facsimile thereof?
Well, I've read a few books about Thomas Jefferson, and what an incredible mind. And one of the things he was asked was he a great believer in luck? And he said, I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it. Today, that said, is the harder I work, the luckier I get. So I always tell people, don't be afraid to outwork the next guy. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen more than you talk. And if you do those things, and look, be personable and be able to work with other people. And if you can listen and learn, and you can work hard, and you can be somebody that's dependable and can work well with others, you're ahead of 95% of the people. And so it's really a matter of continuing to work like that. And I think those are some key traits that will always help somebody and will always build.
Listen more than you talk. I could never get to be the next John Tolomer.
You know, my father told me, and my mother used to tell me the same. So I learned.
Yep, man, I still hear it to this day as well. So, John Tolomer, it's been a great pleasure to talk to you, John Tolomer, President, CEO of the Westchester Bank. 7 branch locations around the county: White Plains, Yonkers, Mamaroneck, Rybrook, Ossining, Thornwood, and in Mount Kisco. John, let's do this again, hopefully, as the economy starts to improve and our society as a whole starts to get better. And let's see where we are at next time we talk.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it very much.